Let's take a look at adding new receipts or assets in administration. We're going to go ahead and follow the receipts icon from the case dashboard. And this takes us to a page where we see all of the assets, income, receipts, anything that comes into the control of our fiduciary. These are all listed, ones that have been added before. And we're going to go ahead and add a new receipt. And we'll make it a 2015 Toyota Tacoma. By the way, side note, just one of the benefits of using a web-based application is that most browsers do have autofill. And so you might have certain things like certain financial institutions you deal with a lot, things like that. You'll have the benefit of autofill when you're adding information to cases. If this were a financial account that had an account number, we would add that. If we didn't want to, you don't have to. If you want to keep that private for any reason, that's fine. Similarly, we can use an alternative public identifier, and both of those then can be connected on the 45D, which happens automatically in EstateAssist. We can put a value, we'll call this $20,000, and we will not use a comma because for data input, the software asks that we do not use the commas. It will add the commas when it populates documents. Now, dates are very important in EstateAssist because if we want automation, the software needs to recognize when a receipt or when an asset came into the custody of the fiduciary so that it can determine which accounting it goes in and what documents it goes in. Dates are also important for giving us information on creating deadlines, which we'll see in another video. When we receive or add a new receipt or asset, then it's going to default, this date will default to the date of the fiduciary appointment if you have added that in the case information screen, the original questionnaire. Of course, you probably didn't have it when you created that questionnaire, but you would have gone back in and added it once the court appoints your fiduciary. We have it default to that because that's the date the fiduciary becomes responsible or is seen as controlling the assets. If the asset is received or the receipt is received at a future date, say there's a refund several months into the administration, then you would select that new date whenever it was received. And then it asks if the asset is appraised. In doing those things, we've given the basics to create a new asset. The next section of this page is to define the asset type and give some detail based on that. So we have the different categories of assets or receipts that we would see on forms in the 6s, the 13s, the 5s, things like that. And so by selecting a couple of these, we categorize our assets and give the necessary details. So here we have a vehicle, and we'll go ahead and, pardon me, create a VIN, just something generic for now. If it were other types of assets, you might have to give some other details. And then after we've determined the asset and the type of asset, we come to intended disposition. Now, this can be changed in the future, so please don't worry too much about it if you don't know at the time of entry what the fiduciary intends to do with the asset. But at some point, we want to start telling the software what we're going to be doing. Here we'll say we're going to sell it at private sale for best price obtainable and have the buyer pay cash. Again, that can be changed later to a transfer in kind or different kind of sale. But by adding this information, one, it helps us track what we believe the fiduciary wants to do, just keep track of those things. But two, it's going to allow us to auto-populate documents. So specifically in the ranges of the 5s for smaller estates and the 9s and 10s for authority to sell or transfer in kind. Anything that we've selected, it's going to automatically move those assets to those forms. And again, we can change that later on and it'll take them back off the forms. And then the next section that we come to is what the actual disposition is. And so as we work through and sell or otherwise liquidate an asset or transfer it in kind, then we're going to go ahead and update the asset by coming back in. Our hope is you only have to visit this page for an asset maybe 2 to 3 times over the course of an administration. And so here we're going to say that we sold it, and we'll say we sold it for $19,500. And then that was also the net proceeds. Of course, if you're selling something like real estate, you might have a different number from the gross sale and the net sale because you might have some money coming out for closing costs. And then we're going to add the date that the asset was liquidated. We'll say that was today. And we're going to add that it was those funds were then deposited in the estate account. And that was today. And in doing those things, we've triggered a number of automations. We're now going to be able to track, of course, the sale, the receipt. This will automatically update your estate account ledger to show that those funds have been deposited and what your new balance is, all sorts of things like that. Now, what it's not going to do is it's not going to automatically create a disbursement. And so, for example, if we did have closing costs from a sale, we still want to create a disbursement for those, which you'll see in another video. Or if we did a transfer in kind, we would still need to make a corresponding disbursement. Okay. And then we do have a field for notes if you just want to keep some notes regarding the asset. And then down at the bottom, we have some fields for tracking the legal description of real estate and for selecting things to be able to have that real estate show up on documents like 6s and 13s and 12s if you want the legal description to show up on things or if you want to use attached exhibits. So in going back through just a few sections that we fill in, and again, we want to specify dates. We want our dates to be accurate. These are very important, and they really make things move in an automated way in EstateAssist.